What is up, everybody? It's Wednesday night. It's after 8:30. It's time for EOP. I'm Big Al.
And I'm Joey Sheeran.
Joseph is it's been a whole. We had a little break in between. There's been a lot. There's some things going on in Philly sports apparently right now. Right now the Phillies they lost tonight. Of course, 8-5 was the final, right?
Yeah,
eight to 5 was the final. They lost to San Diego Padres. They split the two games in San Diego. We have a special guest, former NLCS man himself, a young rookie at the time, Kevin Stocker, former Philly and current Phillies broadcaster, will be joining us in about 10 minutes or so. And those who are just getting done with the Matty B Phightins Phinal, thank you for jumping over here. We'll have more Phillies talk for you. Of course, we're going to touch on the Eagles being 6-0, beating the terrible Dallas Cowboys. Even the Flyers right now are 3-0, currently playing. I think the game's tied at that commercial right now. I can't tell.
They just tied 2-2.
And the Sixers lost their home opener to the Celtics, which I'm not really worried about that at this point in time. And even the Philadelphia Union are about to start their playoffs tomorrow, being the number one seed. So
it's funny. Like last night, we're watching. I had the two TV set up in the living room. And we had some family members over last night for game one of the NLCS. But we had the Sixers game on the other TV. And, of course, most of my attention's going towards the Phillies game. But my wife and her cousin were, like, watching the Sixers. Like, damn, they're down by 7, 8, 9. I'm sitting there like, I said, guys, I'm being honest with you. I don't give a shit about this game one at all. I was like, I understand it's against the Celtics, and I hate the Celtics. But there is something much more important going up on the bigger TV right now.
And there's going to be a lot more Celtics games, Sixers Celtics games. This is number one game, and normally we'd be all about it, getting ready for it. But the fact that we have the postseason for your Fightin' Phils for the first time in 11 years, and they're a legitimate contender.
Yeah.
Today, maybe if you were just joining for the first time watching the game, you might not feel that way. But it wasn't the best outing by Aaron Nola. The team, we jumped on them early, but that just didn't hold up. We're going to touch on that a little bit with when Kevin Stocker joins us. But real quick, guys, I want to thank our sponsors here who actually make just this whole thing possible. Let's start with Dolan's Bar, 24 East Sellers Avenue, right down in the heart of Ridley Park. PJ's always putting on an amazing show, amazing food with him and Wolf's. Just a good time. You never know who's going to stop by. Mickey Morandini was just there. Kind of having a little internal feud with Mr. Invincible himself over at another local bar, but that's a whole different conversation on its own. We also want to thank David R. Cherry of the Cherry Injury Firm. Dave Cherry, 610-565-0300. Cherry Firm, cherryinjurylaw.com. That's workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law, you name it, he'll cover you. David Cherry, 610-565-0300. Don't forget, PhillySportsTrips.com. All the away games are covered, and even the home games. You can do a Bird's Tailgate at the Gatehouse and the Navy Yard. The next away game is Houston, which we will probably touch a little bit on, because if everything plays out, that could be the same week the Phillies in the World Series could be playing the Houston Astros. But not getting ahead of ourselves, it's just things could line up that way. But PhillySportsTrips.com, and they just released, they're doing a Sixer, I think in February. I have to get all the information. I just released this. I don't have all the information in front of me. But they're doing. They're heading back up to Brooklyn again for a Sixers bus trip. And last time they took a bunch of people, so it'll be a good time. And let's check out the entire network real quick. We're not going to go over the whole thing, but like I said, today you had your Phightins Finals, and tonight, of course, you're ending your night with myself, and Joe Sheeran, and of course, Kevin Stocker will be joining us in just a few moments. Tomorrow, Philly Press Box Radio moved from tonight to tomorrow. Bird's Eye Q, the Round Mound with the painted lines, as well as a Sixers-Bucks post-game show. I know I have the attacking third in there right now, but because the playoff games for the Union are tomorrow, they may either go late or be late a day or two later, depending on how long that game runs. So and plus you'll see Friday through Sunday. There is no Phillies game or Eagles game, of course, so there will be no pre, post, and halftime games. But as you can tell by the list, there is a lot of things going on here at EOP and the painted lines. So, Joe, like I said,
we got to mention one thing. There is no Eagles, but there is now a Game 5 on Sunday.
Yes, there is a Game 5 definitely on Sunday after today's loss. I unfortunately can't go on Friday. Joe, are you going?
Not Friday. I'm going Saturday.
Yeah, as of right now, it looks like I'm going Saturday too. I'm getting my tickets locked up, as well as I'm not sure about Sunday just yet. I'll keep you guys ears peeled. Hopefully, that'll be the end of it. Bring it back here to South Philly. You know, can we go over a couple things real quick? Number
Absolutely.
number one, could somebody teach these guys how to wave a rally tail? Like, I've never
They
seen a
don't
bunch
know
of
how to do anything out there in San Diego.
I've never seen a bunch of dope fans, and I mean dope. Not like, not the whole 90s slang saying how cool something is. I'm saying just a bunch of dopes. They were just like waving the tails like this, like somebody's airing out some laundry. And the other ones who are waving it looks like they're gonna need Tommy John surgery by the end of this outing. But I don't know if you've seen. Me and Matty talked about a lot on the Phightins Phinal last night. I know you were chiming in, but did you see the knuckleheads on the news out there in San Diego with their song, rap, whatever it is you want to go? I mean,
That's what's in.
yeah, like I am honestly, if I'm Manny Machado, if I'm Nola's brother, if I'm anybody on that team, Blake Snell, I'm done. I don't want to play
What,
for this
dude?
fan base anymore.
I think I've watched it maybe 1,000 times in the past 24 hours, and a part of me loves it because think of what had to go into this. Somebody had to first gather these guys around, give them the concept of this, sit down, write the lyrics, pass them out, say everybody memorize this, set up a news spot for them to go out and look like a bunch of jabrones, and then think that this is a great idea. How don't you love this? This is one of the greatest things.
Who do you blame more? The people for putting it together, or do you think the news knew they were so bad that they're going to be kind of like a viral sensation that they've turned into, and they're like, oh well, here we go. Like we got to put these knuckleheads out there and get our names out there.
I think they all have their heads so far up their asses out there in California that they don't even know. Like they barely even know that this is the NLCS. I mean, you saw the whole thing of the San Diego chicken painting with the foot or with his whatever, his paw or whatever on the Phillie fanatic on the side of a building. It was there for less than 24 hours because the fans were in an uproar saying that it was a jinx after them losing game one. And the bar that the bar that the mural was on and the person who painted the mural, neither of them were taking credit for covering up. So what are you telling me, that somebody just came there in the middle of the night, covered up this 20 by 20, mural, and nobody said a word, and like that nobody knew what was going on? Like San Diego, like it means whale's vagina, as we all know from Ron Burgundy. Like I don't even like they're lucky that they're coming to Philadelphia because they don't know what they're doing out there.
I would love to know how many San Diego fans actually make the trip out here, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Aaron Nola's parents, that's it.
Well, that's another conversation, and I actually want to talk to our guest about that. Yeah. And speaking of our guest, the current Phillies radio announcer, former Philly, as well as a man who has a little idea what the postseason's like, especially at a young rookie age. Mr. Kevin Stocker. Hello, sir. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys?
Listen, even though it was a loss tonight, I'm still pumped about this team.
Good.
I mean, they did exactly what we would have hoped they were going to do before the season, before the series started. Go 1-1 out in San Diego and bring it back home here. And we were just kind of talking about right before you joined us how the comparison of San Diego fans to Philly fans and how it's it's scary different. But I want to start off with you because you know what, like I said, I love having you on tonight because there is some things that you can help us kind of get in the mind or the psyche of some of these players. As I said, right. Your rookie season was 93, a big year for all of us, especially guys like me and Joe, who literally, like we've told you in the past, started our fandom with Philly sports. But you were a rookie. You were in an NLCS game, a series, of course, a World Series. And you're a young guy, first year up there. You got guys now like Matt Vierling, Bryson Stott. Like, start off with just what goes through your mind. How do you keep yourself tempered in this situation when you just started your MLB career and, oh, by the way, you're in some of the biggest games of your life?
That's a great point, actually. I just figured after my rookie year that it was easy to get to the World Series every year. I figured, this is a piece of cake. But part of that when you talk about being tempered, some of that is you start to lean on the veteran guys around you. They can really help keep you tempered. To be honest with you, it's one of those things. There's a huge moment. A lot of times, though, nowadays, I remember getting there and all of the press around the batting cage, all that stuff before the game. It happens so early that you kind of get that out of the way. When the game starts, believe it or not, you really do find yourself kind of zoned in and focused. Here's the trick, though, for Stott. Vierling, I think, is a good example. Even Bohm, to an extent. They've been up there the whole year, right? So it's not like they just came up with 4 weeks ago and now they're like, they're nervous and not really sure what to expect. They've been in some big game moments. And I think that really helps the Phillies. I think that's part of the reason that the Phillies team got where they are now is because those young guys have had that early experience and the early failure, right? I mean, you go back to Stott, beginning of the year, he just couldn't hit a lick. Now, granted, there was a lot of things that were different manager, the way that they were playing him, Vierling the same way. I think now they're a little bit more comfortable, but it can be really tough to put all the noise out of your mind. Paul Molitor once said, and I'll never forget this because he just crushed us at 93. If you guys remember, sorry to bring that up, but yeah. He actually, guys talked to him about how do you put the noise out of your.
Did we lose you there?
Yeah, he froze.
All right. Well,
there you are. Did I lose you?
Yeah, there you are.
We're back.
Sorry about that. I don't know where that, but to get back, Paul Molitor said, imagine you go into the ballpark, somebody asked him, when you go to the game and you see your batting average up there and you're hitting $150 or 200, how do you deal with that? The same with the noise with the playoff situation. And he said, you don't waste your energy trying to forget about it, try to ignore it. You step up there, you embrace it, you kind of look around, and then you get on with business. That's the best way you can do it.
Yeah, now you as a fan, former, player, now on the broadcast team, but of course you're still a fan of the game and a fan of the Phillies. Do you believe in fan superstitions, much like if a perfect game or a no-no is going, kind of you don't speak of it with a friend or, a family member, or much like today, what I was saying on like Twitter and social media was Phillies were up 4-0 in the second inning, and people were already saying, "Oh, this is going to be a sweep. We're gonna lock this up, in 4 games in Philly." And I'm sitting there like pulling my hair out, going, "What are these people doing? Do people not understand the concept of you don't speak it into fruition and give the Padres this little movement to get back in the game? Like now, like is this something that you still go by?"
I love your passion, man. I love that you are bought into that 100%. I will say this, as a player, if I've got a pitcher out there throwing a no-hitter, you better believe I'm not going to be the guy to go talk to him.
Yeah.
More, though, because I think he might believe in it. For me, I had a lot of superstitions, believe it or not, the first 3 or 4 years when I played. To be honest with you, it literally got exhausting. I mean, I used to tie my shoes a certain way, and I would retie them 3 or 4 times. Eventually, I just got so tired of it, I said, I can't play like that anymore. It was exhausting. So I moved on. To your point, though, I do think that when you're talking about the collective, you're talking about the Philly fans, which I love how you brought me in by saying that they're a different breed of fan than the Padres, 100%. I mean, you saw some of the stuff the Padres were doing. Give me a break. That's just the most bizarre thing. But the Philly fans collectively, if they buy in, it's just so much more fun, right? When everybody buys in and they're talking about it, that's the beauty about it. I wouldn't say that was why they lost. Sorry, man. I know you want me to say that. But, yeah, collectively it'd be fun. It's more fun to kind of keep that going back and forth.
All right. Well, let's look at the manager here. I mean, everybody is just, in Rob, we trust is the phrase you're hearing a lot around Philadelphia and throughout social media, which we should. There's no reason. He hasn't shown us any reason not to. Rob is more of the slow play. He always even keel, doesn't ever look like he's going to lose his mind kind of manager. Versus what we used to see with Girardi, who always seems to be tinkering with his lineup, always seemed to be just, I don't know if it was because he was kind of a lame duck manager in a sense, and he was trying to, turn lemons into lemonade. But just what is the effect when you have a guy who just continues, who sees the long game, who just continues to show faith in guys like everybody's up, like for example, Schwarber. Oh, he should be batting 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th in the line. I'm not leading off, but he continues to stay with it. And it's, starting to pay off as we've seen in the beginning of this NLCS series. What is it like to play for a manager like that?
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm a big believer in when you're a player, an everyday player. Schwarber's everyday guy. Harper, obviously DH, an everyday guy. I'm a big believer when you're an everyday guy to know I'm going to go out there and play until I can't play anymore and just push, push, push. You want a manager that you can think along with. I will say when Joe was there, and I like Joe personally, Joe was great with us as broadcasters. He was very open. You could ask him questions. I liked that part of it. As a player, I would have struggled because I didn't know if I'd be in there every day or not. And so you look at a Stott. Where was he going to play? He needed to play every day. You want a manager that is predictable as a player, maybe not as an opposing player, but as a player, like for me, an infielder, whatever. I wanted to know that I was going to be in there every day, whether I made a mistake or not. Bohm's made a couple mistakes, and yet he's still in there every day. And I think Bohm is a big reason the team is where they are now, because offensively, he's great. You have to go through that stuff. So I love the fact that he's predictable that way. I think that's a huge reason for the Phillies' success, is because that when he took over, he went up to, for example, Bryson Stott. I know I keep going to him, but he's that young guy. And he said, you're going to be my shortstop. Whether you make mistakes or not, I'm not pulling you out. You're going to go out there and you're going to figure it out. And he did. And I think there's a huge value in that for sure. I would have. That's why I like Jim Fregosi was a great example. He was that guy. And so he might want to give me a day off. He'd come tell me. I could even say, hey, I don't want a day off here. I want to go a couple more days. And he would respect that decision at times. Other guys, Terry Francona is a great example. Terry, his first year, had to kind of learn that. And I think he went through some growing pains and realized, oh, no, I got to stick these guys out there and be a little bit more forceful that way. So I love that part of Thompson, how even keel that he is.
So now with the recent success in the playoffs, obviously, I mean, you look at this roster from top to bottom, and you see some names that were talked about not being here next season, i.e. a Segura or a Rhys Hoskins. Do you think they're more likely to, run it back next season with this current roster, maybe tweak a starting and a relief pitcher here or there? Or do you think that they go out and try and make a splash with a Trey Turner or someone, so to speak?
Knowing this ownership group, Dombrowski, Middleton, and how baseball is nowadays, it's day to day, man. You go with what you have right now.
Did we lose him again?
Yeah.
All right. We'll see. There he goes.
There you are, guys. Sorry about
that.
So that's all right. So no, I to answer that question, I think that the way baseball is now is you ride your horses like they are now. When the season's over, you have to at that point go. You have to, as hard as it is to say the season's over. Okay, we start fresh, and if that means we're trading this guy, we're going to add this guy. That's how it operates now. I know that's hard. Now, in saying that, like a guy like Hoskins is awesome. I mean, he's one of those guys you want in your organization. But then you have to look, though, okay, if we're going to trade a Rhys or whatever, what do you get? It goes to that chessboard. And Dombrowski is amazing that way. I mean, I spent a lot of time on the road because as a guest broadcaster, we were on the road a lot of times. And that guy works like crazy, but he's super open. He's always looking. So I don't know if I'm answering your question the right way, but I will say this. I've been on some teams where we won, and the momentum, you start thinking, oh, we won, let's keep everybody. And then it doesn't work out the next year, whether it's injuries or guys get lazy, whatever it is. So I think that once you ride through and this team goes and wins the World Series, which I expect them to get there and do all that.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah. As soon as the season's over, though, you have to calm yourself down and get back to business. And whatever that is with this team, no one really knows but Dombrowski, Middleton, and those guys.
Let's look at so far what we've seen in the postseason. I mean, outside the one Atlanta game and tonight's game, the Phillies haven't lost anything. They swept through St. Louis, which they've been underdogs almost every game so far, and they continue to play. We've talked about this with the Eagles in 2017 with this underdog mentality. Does that, as a player, does that mean something to you when somebody they don't believe in you and do you want to work harder, or is that just something we as fans get into?
Sorry, you guys, you cut out about most of that question. Try again.
I'll say so. Like the being the underdog
again.
You there? All right, see if we get him back. Yeah, I was going to ask when he comes back. Hey, there you go. Can you hear us now?
I don't know where we're losing each other here.
You hear me?
Where you at? You out in the Midwest?
Or the way west? All right, we'll see if we can get him back. But can you hear us now?
I got you. I don't know how we're losing each other, but I got you.
All right. So my question pretty much was the underdog mentality. Does that really mean anything? Resonate anything with the with a player in an NLCS series, a big series like this, World Series, whatever, or is that more of us fans kind of feeding into the moment because of people are doubting us?
It's mostly the fans, and the reason I say that is we were underdogs in '93, but we as players didn't believe that, so we didn't listen to that noise. We felt like we just played every day. We felt like we belonged there. So I do think, though, when you look at the numbers and prior to the season, I get it. I mean, we have to, even as a broadcaster, you go, man, we don't pencil out like maybe the Dodgers, or we don't pencil out. But at the same side, we also know the power that this team has and their strengths. And so I will say this going into this playoffs, and you guys can even comment and tell me, everybody's healthy. So I started thinking, I'm like, when was the last time we saw everybody from this team that was healthy and good to go? And so here they are, they get themselves into the playoffs. Once you're in the playoffs, whatever happened all the season, all the individual statistics truly go out of your mind as a player. And that was the beauty about
Looks like we lost him again. Hopefully we'll reconnect. I guess he answered my question. Yeah, it's more of us than them.
Yeah.
There you go, bud.
Man almighty, I don't know what the deal is. I might have to call you guys. If you got a number, I'll call in, but whatever.
Are you home? Are you in the Midwest?
No, I'm in Seattle, over at my brother's location in Seattle right now. Believe it or not, there's a ton of fires around too. There's all kinds of smoke, but
wow.
Anyway, no, sorry about that. So I hope you got most of that question answered there, but
you pretty much said like you said, it was more of us. You guys never doubted yourselves. There was
never. But again, this team, it's so fun to watch. Like I watched the last two games for sure, and even to the playoff, everybody's healthy. I just think it is so much fun to finally go. At the beginning, I was listening to Greg Murphy when he was doing his pregame on the radio today. And at the end of it, he says, let's talk about injuries. Hey, you know what? There really are no injuries to talk about. And I'm like, when was the last time we heard that? So you see a team at full strength.
Nah, that's awesome. Now, locker room celebrations, we see how this team is doing it. And they, of course, have this song, Dancing on My Own. Nobody knew about it before these locker room celebrations and the playoffs. The 93 Phillies, what was your song, your go-to? Like, because I know like us, like it was Whoop, There It Is. Like, is that something you guys had in the locker room, or did you guys have your own signature song?
We had a song. Now, forgive me for not knowing the exact song, but I will tell you this. It was controlled by Mariano Duncan. And we would come in after a win, and he would blast that music, and off we went, baby. You better believe it. So, there was a couple of different songs, but Mariano was the leader of that group when it came to the music. We had so much fun. I mean, obviously when we lost, we wore it hard. We wore losses hard, especially toward the end. But, man, Mariano made sure, and all the guys in there made sure we had a good time.
Awesome. So my last question to you for me is so far what you've seen from this team. I mean, every series it looks like somebody's gotten better. Like in the wild card series, Harper looked like he was still struggling. He's found his groove and has been just pretty much the most consistent hitter on fire. Breaking records continuously. It looks like Schwarber, finally found his bat again and is just more poised at the plate. What do you do preparatively when you're struggling, especially in these big moments as a player?
Well, if you're talking about offensively, you lean on the other guys. And I know we've been cutting in and out a little bit. One of the things that I talked about is when you get to the playoffs individually, believe it or not, I know this might sound stupid or might not, maybe you don't believe me, but it's true. I distinctly remember in the playoffs, individual stats literally didn't matter. During the season, you're like, I want to do well and I want to get there for sure, but you're also trying to put food on your table. But once you got to the playoffs, it was strictly about wins and losses. So if you're a Rhys Hoskins who has a couple of big home runs, but really doesn't have a lot of hits, he's just about wins and losses, man, right? So one of the things you can do is try to relax. You try to simplify, and now is not the time to make big changes if you're talking about offensively. It's great to see, Harper swinging the bat. JT, I think, will have some big moments because when you get to the situations with 7-game series, it's going to come down to basically 1 or 2 guys on each team having huge playoffs. Yep. Back in the day, it was Paul Molitor.
Looks like we lost him again. All right.
There you are.
Right.
I'll be quick. I'll be quick.
I'll be right back.
It's gonna come down, I think, to big moments by a couple of guys from each team, right? So back in '93, Lenny Dykstra was battling Paul Molitor. They were having huge playoffs, huge World Series. I think it comes down to that sort of thing. These two teams, without a doubt, though, versus the Padres, it's pitching. Both teams are loaded with pitching, starting pitching. I got to tell you, a little bit of a sleeper for me has been Eflin. I don't know about you guys, but he came back, and out of that bullpen, he's been really good. And I'm like, that's just to me, that's an interesting weapon to have in the bullpen, is to have somebody who can go from being a starter to all of a sudden he's a reliever and has been very effective. I know that sounds kind of silly, but he's been great there. And then I think obviously Harper, he just needs to keep it up and keep doing what he's doing.
No, I don't think it's silly for you to say that at all, because we saw it within Brett Myers, who was in Philadelphia last Friday.
Yeah.
We saw him be a starter, go into a closer role and be successful. And I've always been a big fan of Zach Eflin. So, I mean, to see him have success coming out in that bullpen, whether it's to close or whatever the role may be. I mean, seeing him have that success after being injured a majority of the season is really great to see.
Yeah. He's that sleeper guy for me, man. I love what he said the other day. I don't know if it was him. It was said by him, but somebody else through him. But where he said something about he needed to be meaner out of the bullpen. Did you guys hear that? Where they were talking about,
sure,
he starts coming in thinking, I got to be a little bit meaner. Like this guy who's hitting is trying to take food from my family off the table. So so I love that attitude, especially in the playoffs. So I think the back end of that bullpen last night we saw in the big win. We saw how you get the 7 innings from Wheeler. You got Sir Anthony coming in there, and boom, he's coming in. You got the back end of those guys doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Nice. Last one for me is, what's going on with you? What are you going to do with the offseason? You got some travel coming up. You're going to be back with the Phillies next season? Don't worry, he'll be right back. He'll get the question in a minute.
He's deep in thought.
Sorry, guys. We'll have to do this again with a better connection. I can't figure it out.
Not a problem. But
last one for me was just, what are you going to do with your offseason? You got some travel planning? You coming back with the Phillies next year? What's going on with Kevin Stock? Well,
I tell you, I definitely want to come back with the Phillies next year. Right now, things are quiet because there's something else going on, and that's the playoffs. So, I mean,
that's
right now, they're kind of doing their thing and try to see how the team does. I'd love to come back. Obviously, my wife and I, we got the kids out of the house. They're doing their own thing. So we'd love to come back to the East Coast and keep doing it. I love doing the broadcasting. But the off season for me will just be, watching more baseball, watch a little basketball, see how the Sixers are going to do, and then get ready for spring training. Maybe fish. I fish a little bit. Maybe do some of that.
Very cool.
So,
all right. We want to thank you. We appreciate you, even though with all the connection issues, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you. Listen, I really, and I'm not just saying this because you're here with us. I really enjoyed you on the radio because in my job, I do a lot of traveling back and forth. So there is times that I have to listen to more of the games on radio than watch on TV. So you've been great, and I hope to hear you more. I know LA has been enjoying his time in the playoffs, but we all know his time is slowly rolling down. He's done an amazing job in big shoes to fill. So hopefully we'll be seeing you down the line.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, when the team gets to the World Series, let's talk again.
Absolutely.
All right,
thank you. Take it easy.
See you.
Thanks, Doc.
All right. Dude, it's just great. I mean, it's cool that a former player's actually been there. How excited they're as excited as you and I
know
for being there. Like, and that's amazing. Like, it's just you kind of think like we're by ourselves on a ship. We're floating down the middle of the ocean. We're we feel this way, but you can see that, how they do as a player. Now he as a fan, kind of gives you a little insight. But let's kind of go through this game real quick. I'm going to talk about tonight's game, and then we're going to talk a little Eagles with our fans out there, because I'm sure Matty B did an amazing job on the Phightins Finals. I think our boy Joe Sullivan from Dever Sports was there, and I think Joey Marks from Patterson Ave was also there helping them out. So thank you guys for keeping things going, and it's fun. Just keep rolling right into it. But I'm going to kind of go down through this line. I mean, we saw the second inning, top of the second inning. Alec Boehm singled, Veerling doubles, Sosa singles, and Schwarber grounds out, but they all score off of that, giving the Phillies a 4-0 cushion, which, yes, you mentioned that the guys on Twitter tweeted it, but we all fell in the back of our head on, like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Well, I'll be honest with you, man, especially with these playoffs, because I get I know myself, and I know I can get so hype and just bring myself into this hysteria to where it's like, oh my God, we're going. And then when something when something happens, like what happened today, I get so down. So I basically, for the past couple seasons, I don't let myself get overexcited or get too much. And I'm going to be that guy, too much in my feels. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I kind of just I sit down, I think about it, I calm down, and I say, okay, let's see how the rest of the game plays out. So what happened today, was I bummed? Absolutely. But I know my own psyche, and I could have gone into a tailspin, but I'm sitting here, and I mean, it almost happened with the last series as well. They split in Atlanta. I mean, it really, of course, 2-0 would have been great coming back to Philadelphia. But when you're going into a hostile situation like that, especially on the other side of the country, I mean, getting out of there with a split is great, because when you look at the Padres lineup, listen, they got some bombers on that team. And the fact that the Phillies won 2-0 yesterday, I think was a gift. I think they put up 5 runs today. I think that is what you more or less need to do every single game to get a win over these Padres, because like we saw today, they can come back and score runs in roads. So, I mean, coming back to Philadelphia is going to be huge, because we already know, and we've been there. We know what this crowd is doing in South Philly during these games. And like the Saturday game I was at that you were at, I mean, just Charlie Morton, we got him out in a few weeks. Just Charlie, like the other team, they feel that stuff. There's no doubt about that. So it is going to be a completely different series here in Philadelphia. This is where everything gets turned back around on the Philly side of things.
No, you make an absolutely good point, and somebody made a joke to me today. I work with my wife, as you know, and I stopped at Wawa and grabbed her a breakfast sandwich and got her a coffee and all this stuff. And I came in, I guess I looked like I was in a good mood. And one of my coworkers, jokingly said, "Did you get laid last night?" I was like, "No, but what an amazing game last night." And yes, our moods as Phillies fans, our moods as Phillies fans get, can go, with games, with series, especially like this. So let's go over to the other part of the second. Drury and Bell, they knock back-to-back home runs, but Nola gets himself out of the inning. Then we go to the bottom of the eighth when it's Nola versus Nola, which we're going to talk about a little bit. And Nola's brother had that game-winning hit against him earlier in the season. Now we have Soto. Austin Nola singles. Juan Soto doubles, Drury singles, Bell singles, and then now it's a 7-4 game. And I still didn't feel out of it. I don't know if that's just the way this team makes me feel.
It was the fifth inning. I mean, you can't feel out of it at that point.
But the pitching did struggle a little bit tonight. The only other 2 scores you get out of it is the bottom of the 7th. Machado, he's solo home run, makes it 8-4. Hoskins comes back, makes it 8-5 with a home run. But that looked like it was a little promising, because then Harper gets on base, but then unfortunately nothing else happens after that. Game's over. Just overall, trying to be the analytical me versus the fan me, which as what we do has become harder. And I say to these people, we get to interview, now Stocky played in the team. He's a Philadelphia and he played for the Phillies. But a lot of these guys in the media who aren't from the area, I say we have a lot harder job, because controlling our emotions as fans and also trying to give what's really going on. That's why I'm not upset tonight, because what did I say? And we both said if they split San Diego and come home, I'm saying this game in 5. I said that to you the other night. And they did that. So why would I get upset when they did exactly what I said?
Right.
So this game overall, listen, there was a lot to be desired in the sense that the pitching wasn't the same, but there's still some things coming out. I mean, Harper is extra base hit. I mean, I think he tied a postseason record with extra base hits with Beltran in the National League.
Yeah, seven straight postseason games with an extra base hit,
which is huge. And that's the thing we always kind of worry about when teams make big acquisitions with guys like Bryce Harper. That can they live up to the moment when that moment comes? When they, because Bryce Harper could be like, listen, I'm hurt. I'm just not playing well, and turtled. You know what I mean? And like just kind of went up there, and we saw, like I said, we saw it in St. Louis where he was just wildly swinging. Like the man has a violent swing. Like if he hits you if he hit you in the back, you're probably dead. Like if you get hit in the head or the neck, you're probably dead. Like in my eyes, but and I think right here, Joe Scorza says it best. You flush this one. None of those runs tonight count towards Friday. We got the job done, got the split, and are on the road. Yeah, and that's the other thing is like getting beat by 20 runs or 1 run. It's the same 1 W, 1 L depending on what's going on, which part of the ledger you're on.
Yeah, the one thing I want to say, but I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole with it, is I saw 2 different strike zones for 2 different teams today. I mean, yes, I understand that it was, more or less a pitching duel, up, a majority of the game, I'll say, but there were just some called third strikes where the strike was down towards their ankles. I mean, and that's not what I was saying. And I don't want to blame the game on the umpires and stuff like that, but I think things need to get more consistent. And hell, I mean, next year with the robo umps coming in, I mean, they're things have to get better, right? I'm not the only one seeing this stuff. Am I right?
No, and it was going both ways too. So it's not like you can say, well, they were picking on the Phillies or they're picking on the Padres. I mean, there's been a couple times throughout this postseason run that I could say it's played in the favor of the Phillies versus played in the favor played against the Phillies. No, but I agree with you, and I would really interested to see on how this whole robo ump and challenge. I believe if your player gets a challenge per inning or at bat or whatever it is.
By the way, how this is going to speed up the game, I have no idea.
Well, I would imagine. I wonder if they do the same thing with if you lose the challenge, you lose further, be able to do it down the line. Like if say in the 3rd inning you're challenging something and you lose the challenge based on the robo ump, because that's what they're basing it on. It's still going to be an umpire, but if you're challenging his call, they're going to go to pretty much I guess the same thing they use right now.
But is it a coach's challenge or a player's challenge?
From what I understood, it was a player's challenge, but I'd be interested to see how the rules really come out on that. It'll be, there's a couple of things that are coming out next year that are going to make the game different than what we're used to, especially over the last couple of years. I understand that the zombie runner or whatever it is you want to call it may be gone again, so they might be going back to what we're used to. The shift being taken away, that can make a big difference, but. Joe, you're not wrong, definitely. So I can agree with you, but in the same token, I'm also not going to hold that against anybody. But yeah, listen, if a game comes down to a call like that, then that's when we're gonna get pissed. And this team, listen, they got rattled, and we all know that San Diego is kind of like. They're kind of on the same trajectory. I mean, they're only 1 wild card spot above us. It's the only reason we are, considered the underdogs.
Right.
They beat, the Mets, who are in first place all but a few games this season. And then they go out and they beat their rivals. Like we beat the Braves, who are our rivals. They go out and beat the Dodgers. So on the same kind of trajectory, but in the end, all be all, one of these teams are going to go home and one of these teams are going to move on to the World Series. With that being said, I've made the joke a couple times to you, but we kind of saw it on camera today. Nola versus Nola. I said that the Nola this Nola Thanksgiving is going to be an awkward one, depending. We'll find out for who down the line. But you saw the parents kind of trying to react.
Yeah,
it's like
dad didn't know what the hell to do.
He's like, You made the Ron Burgundy joke, but I'm gonna go to a different Will Ferrell character. What do I do with my hands? Like I don't know. The Talladega Nights line. I'm like, I don't. He was just it was so awkward, and I wasn't sure at first because there was a blonde like kind of right next to him, but it was kind of, I guess the camera angle was in front of him, and she was cheering. I'm like, is that his mom? The mom's going nuts, but the dad's like, oh, honey, calm down. You know what I mean? But it wasn't the wife, of course. But yeah, I mean, what an awkward position. I mean, I remember you put the post out, which went viral, and tens of thousands of people have shared it, tens of thousands of people have looked at it, hundreds of thousands, I should say. And some people go, well, who cares? You should be happy. Having 2 kids possibly going to the World Series is amazing. But I mean, it is a tough situation because you want to go down and congratulate them, but then you have to go to a locker room and console the other. So, I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have, but I couldn't imagine being in that position.
Well, look at it this way: no matter what, one of their kids is going to the World Series. Like as a parent, that's just something to be proud of. I mean, yeah, of course you're going to one of them, but on the other hand, the other one, you got to celebrate. You got to be happy for them. I mean, and I'm sure they are, and I'm sure Aaron is, or Austin, one of them. I mean, they're going to be happy for their brother. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they'll be upset about how their season ended, but you could also look at it as you're both wild card teams. The 2 last spots of getting in, and here you are. You took out the juggernauts on each side of the country in the NL. And here you are in the NLCS tied 1-1. I mean, this is a Cinderella story, really.
Yeah, no, it really is a Cinderella story. And, it's like a kind of like the way the Eagles season trajectory is, we could have a Kelsey's brother Super Bowl, it could be interesting. Actually, you have a brothers in the World Series now, not as big as a deal as the Nolas versus Nolas, but Maton, if we move to World Series and Houston does, you have the Maton brothers, both who are not going to probably see much of any time unless it's just, a walloping on one side of the ball. But didn't
Nick's brother injure himself and now he's out? He punched a locker.
I don't know.
I think he punched a locker and he broke his hand or some shit, so he's out of the postseason. I'll be real, that's a true story.
Oh wow! Do you think Nick goes, "You dope"?
Oh, absolutely. How can you not?
Oh man, that guy that would kill me. That's that's why listen. There's that fine line, and once again we talk about the Michael Jordan documentary where Tom Brady talks about they get these chips on their shoulders. They make up these things. They try to defeat these invisible enemies or whatever you want to call them. And I couldn't imagine that's an emotion thing that you can control. I can see myself getting pissed at myself for not doing something right and wanting to throw a punch at a locker. But at the same time, I gotta remember I'm a baseball player. If I break this hand, I'm screwed. It's a kind of a knucklehead thing. But we're gonna move on in a second. So Nola went 4 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 6 runs, 6 strikeouts. 2 of those runs were home runs.
It's amazing that's all he went because it felt like it was 3 hours that he was on the mound.
Yeah, it did feel like that. I almost was ready to text Stocker and tell him, hey, is it all right if we go a little later? I mean, he is out he's on the left coast, so I mean, for him it was like a 6:30 interview versus a 9:30 interview. So yeah, and believe me, if we hit the World Series, we will have another interview with him. We will be bringing him back without a doubt.
That's our boy.
That's our boy. But I mean, Brad Hand came in and couldn't get one guy out.
Wow.
Yeah, Bilotti came in and he shut it down. Finally, he had to be the one who shut it down, to shut that 5th inning down. But overall, I'm not worried. I don't want. I want other people. I'm pretty much probably saying this. Everybody, don't get ready to get rid of Aaron Nola over this. I mean, I wonder. Do you think the situation is what it was? Like, we're in San Diego. Mom and dad are in the stands. I'm facing my brother. Like, do you think that plays any factor into it, Joe?
I don't think so, really.
No,
not really. What do you?
I think I'm not saying it's the end all be all factor, but I wonder if it plays a factor in it. The moment, just the moment. That's it. And then he gets that hit again, so maybe it rattles his cage a little bit. But
but we've seen Aaron Nola go through this before, where he gets to a certain spot in the game, be it bottom fifth or top six, and like things just kind of fall apart for him. So I mean, seeing what happened today, it didn't surprise me that kind of things went that way, especially the way that he's been pitching as of late. Like, you knew that you're going to kind of get a clunker out of him in one of these games. Unfortunately, it was game 2 of the NLCS.
Yeah. And our boy Freddie Burns joins us today remotely. Kevin Soccer was just on us. I know you were in the middle of doing something else recently. Some great insights. So anybody who missed that, who's just joining us, like Freddie is, go back and listen to the podcast once we put it up at the end of the show. But because we're gonna real quick, Fred, I want to get your take just currently on the Phillies, the situation with the Phillies, what you've seen so far in the NLCS, and maybe today's game in general.
I just don't think he's an ace. I always never thought he was an ace. He's a 2 at best, and a really, really good 3. And I'm with Joe. I'm not saying that Joe said that, but I wasn't like stunned by this. Like, this happens, especially in the daytime game, because it's 4:00 here, it's 1:00 in San Diego. But I mean, we're 1-1. Like, this is another good team. Like, this could go 7. Like, we're not going to win all the postseason games. This is our second loss in the postseason. So I'm totally okay with it. I'm glad we used pitchers like Gibson and Bilotti and Brogdon, to just, not use up any arms that we're really going to need. Disappointing to see Robertson pitch the way he did. I noticed he didn't have his Cubs cleats on anymore. That
put him back on.
Put him back on, maybe, or maybe not jump up and down and injure your hamstring. But I'm game, man. We got game 3. We got 3 at home. Hopefully we get. I mean, it's a dream to take 3 out of 3. But 2 out of 3 is realistic to me. Mm-hmm. And then you got to win 1 in San Diego. And I mean, you can't ask for more. It's all icing on the cake, man. 2 weeks ago, where were we? 2.5 weeks. We were like, are we going to make the playoffs? Like, this is
we were, yeah.
Me. This is right. So fun. This is so fun.
I was having a temper tantrum saying, like, questioning, do I even think that you should be in the playoffs? And now here we are. Here we are, and I'm like on my knees praying that I get that email about World Series tickets.
me too.
I did register my email and maybe 7 other emails today.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you guys. So, is this a dick move? I need your guys' opinion. I know you're probably just going to say yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a wedding to go to on Friday. Our friend Steve Profit from Delco Live is getting married on Friday, which, a lot of people look at this week going, well, it's the bye week. So I'm gonna schedule that, not thinking postseason. And somebody kind of really laid into him, and I said, listen, it's not really his fault. He's only 30. It's been 11 years since the Phillies even hit the postseason, let alone go to an NLCS this late in October. But I messaged him and his wife and asked, will there be a TV there or TVs with the game on during their big day? Was that a dick move to do?
No,
okay.
Because I've done it. 11 years ago, it was Phillies Cardinals, and there was a wedding that I was in. I was the best man, and I was the best man, and I went to the groom and I said, listen, are we going to get a projector for the reception? And he kind of like looked at me. He's like, dude, this is my wedding. Don't be an asshole. And I was like, you know what? All right. And I think it was like game 2, so it wasn't like I was going to miss the rest of the series. But yes, the fact that I have been in your shoes before and have done that, no, Al, it is not a dick move.
I also got a message before I asked that. Don't fake sick. I'll know if you go to the game.
Joe, I think that's so commendable, and your job as the best man to say that to him, and I think that's awesome. And no, it's not a dick move. To not go to the wedding would be a dick move. Okay. But to ask that and maybe put that idea in their head, I would go so far as to have an earpiece for myself.
Well, that's the thing. Somebody else brought up to me
like with the radio.
Yeah. I asked that. I kind of asked this question to someone else I work with today. But now with YouTube TV on your phone, Before, like you said, we used to
but
play.
you can't get a group of people sitting at the table.
That's the problem.
Everyone will be around your table, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean?
And someone's
now
gonna
but now everybody can just have their own phone and watching it. Not everybody has to crowd around the same phone. Everyone, like, you can share your login and be like, all right, everybody, here it is. Let's just enjoy it on our own.
Fuck that dance floor. Let's just all sit at the table.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's the thing is, I think it's not so much everybody looking at it on their phone if it's one phone or 40 phones. I think it's more that there's nobody on the dance floor. He's throwing the garter about. There's nobody there to catch it. That kind of situation.
They did a speech. I
missed it. Oh, you guys got married? Good job.
Harper hit a 2-run homer.
Yeah, that's the thing is you're going to hear everybody scream when something like that happens. A big play happens or something along those lines. That's the thing. And I kind of feel bad because, like, especially like maybe the wife is like, I don't care about sports. I don't care about the Phillies. This is women literally pretend to get married since like the day they know what marriage is. It's like their entire life. I could see
all three of us would make sure that there's a TV there. No doubt about it.
Oh, absolutely. My wife would understand that. I think she'd understand it to a point. She would get mad at me for it, but I think she'd understand it would happen. But let's switch gears for a second because
they know who they married.
Yeah. It's not like we changed in that time frame. So the other, like, it's funny that we have a 6-0 Eagles who just beat the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, and we haven't even touched on it yet. Fred, let me start with you, man. Like, just is it too soon to get hype on these Eagles?
You guys aren't hyped yet?
No. I'm just like I'm talking like
halftime of the Vikings game when I saw Jalen Hurts dissect the defense and go.
No, I'm talking like
I was like, holy shit!
Like booking playoff trips hype, like that hype.
Yeah, man, we could go 500 the rest of the way. We're in the playoffs. I'm
listen. You bring up I'm gonna put this up here. You bring up a very good point. Here's the schedule right now. Okay, so we got, of course, the six W's right down the line to the bye week. Where do you guys on paper? Where do you see the first loss?
You know what, man? I think it'd either be the Steelers or the Colts. I don't know why.
You think they'll come off the bye week and lose to the Steelers just because they beat Tampa Bay this week?
Yeah, I really think the Steelers are building something up there. I do like Kenny Pickett, and he's got some weapons around him, and they do have a pretty good defense. If they hit on all cylinders coming back, against the Eagles after their bye week, I could see it going one of, I could see it being a loss. I don't know why.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Steelers. I think Tomlin has not had a season in a losing record. They're in a little bit of a hole. They're extremely well coached. And, as much as I'm loving what Jalen's been doing, the last 2 weeks have been a little bit of a back to what we saw last year. So, as far as him reading and all that, now part of that was Lane Johnson injured, and I'm not critiquing him negatively. I'm just being honest of what happened. Mm-hmm. So I could see Tomlin having a game plan ready for that, and it'd be up to if we're able to. So I could definitely see the Steelers possibly, but outside of that, I would probably go Green Bay.
I don't know about Green Bay. They are a bad team right now.
I don't think it's going to stay like that, though. I don't think they're going to go 4 wins. They're going to be competitive.
This year, there's been a lot of parity in the NFL. Teams that you expected to be good have been struggling. I would call it like an identity crisis. The Bengals, as an example. Tampa Bay, we all know what's going on with Tom Brady in his personal life, as well as everything behind the scenes
for no reason. He sucks. Yeah, he should just hang it up now.
Do you think it's
I love him for this. You're telling me I can't play football? No, I'm playing. Oh, it's me, football, or you? Oh no, I'm going to play football.
All right, well, with staring at the schedule, then the next question I have for you is the New York Giants? I mean, we all know the New York Giants are better than they've been. Brian Daboll has done a good job of getting this team, moving up a level, moving in the right direction instead of backwards. Are they as good as their record says, or do we have plenty of time to December 11th and wait for the shoe to drop?
I think they're extremely well coached, and they're definitely not the New York Giants of old. Are they 5-1? I mean, what's Parcells say your record is? They've come back against the Ravens and the Packers. Mm-hmm. I just think they're a solid team, a scrappy team. They're going to fight and they're not going to give up. So, I think they're worth worrying about. Do I think they're going to win the division or win the Super Bowl? Probably no, but I think they have quarterback questions. I think offensively, eye test wise, it just looks yucky, but like they just find ways to grind out wins.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing just the difference in what a coach can do. We're literally seeing what it has done for the Phillies. We're literally seeing what Nick Sirianni has brought to the Eagles. And I mean, listen, all Saquon Barkley needed was a new coach to use him correctly, and he looks like the elite, coming out of Penn State running back that we thought he was going to be his entire time in New Jersey, I should say. I mean, like Fred, like you said, they're well coached and they've turned these things around. Like if you look at them on paper, like even like their wide receiver core, Evan Ingram's gone. Like they don't have much outside of Saquon, and Daniel Jones is playing a little bit better. But it comes down to the coaching, and they're 5-1. And if it's going to be somebody threatening us for the division, it's going to be the Giants. It's not Dallas.
If looking at the schedule, I guess the one game between maybe now and Green Bay that I think could be, I won't call it a trap game, but could be a game that you don't expect to lose, I would say would be the Houston game, being a short week. And that team sometimes tends to surprise people, not often, but tends to. But
if we can get a Phillies win that weekend instead of an Eagles win, I'm fine with that.
Because you'll take the swap.
I'll take the Phillies beat the Astros in whatever game it is in Houston over the Eagles.
All right, so I'm gonna go
with you.
Yeah, I think any person.
I want the Yankees though, not to go down the Phillies path again, but I want the Yanks. I want revenge.
I said I think John said it to you, like it'd be hilarious that we all said, I think, in the beginning of the season when Joe Girardi was still the skipper here, we said, oh, wouldn't it be funny if it's a Phillies Yankees World Series? Yeah. And Joe Girardi's at the helm. Now it'd be funnier now that he's not even here.
Topper was still was a lifer with the Yankees, so I mean it's kind of the same thing.
Sure. All right. So 6 weeks has passed. We have a 6-0 team. Joe, start with you. Give me a letter grade for the Eagles defense.
Ooh, Eagles defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go A. Not A+, not A-, solid A, because outside of, Jonathan Goddard should be a little bit more aggressive with pass rush. Like outside of that, like this team, like just look at the turnovers, the Eagles defensive turnover ratio compared to the rest of the league. They have 13 turnovers in 6 weeks, opposed to like the rest of the league's top, like the number 2 team has like 7 or 8. I mean, this team, outside of getting to the quarterback, more often, this team is firing on all cylinders. So I'm giving the defense an A.
It's hard to argue with that, Joe. I initially thought B+, but it's probably A. I mean, like you said, the takeaways. Going in the Cardinals game wasn't so much. I don't know if they're still number 1, but going into the Cardinals game, they were number 1 in third down conversions, like getting off the field. The turnovers is a huge part of this, and I don't know how they've had injuries. Weather's helped them in a game. That's maybe why I'll go B+. I didn't like what I saw there because receivers were open in that Dallas game. It's just thankfully Cooper Rush sucks, so maybe that's why I'll go B+. It seemed like they found something with the tight end there, but then again, once Avonte Maddox gets back, I think that's not a non-issue. Hopefully. And when Kayvon Wallace had to come in, that was a mess. He looked like he didn't play football before, but it's hard to argue A. So I can't argue.
I'm going to agree with the A, and I would say probably not an A+. The only reason I know this is kind of seem a little nitpicky, but yes, the turnovers they're the best team in the NFL right now on the turnover world, but they got in the face, they got their hands, they got balls batted down, but they're still just the sack production over the last couple weeks against questionable lines on the offense has been a little lackluster. And that's the only reason I probably would keep away from the A+ at this point. But other than that, yeah, you can't can't complain about anything you've seen. Especially like, the newer pieces that have been added on at the end of the year with, Gardner Johnson and Bradbury and those kind of, already just big names on the team. So I guess, Joe, the next one would be special teams. what would you give special teams grade right now?
A C. And I think that's being generous because, Fred, I know it's your boy, but Covey sucks. He averages like 4.5 return yards per kick or punt or whatever the hell he's back there for. He just can't seem to figure it out.
I'm going to go lower than C. I'm not necessarily going to blame him 100% because I think their coverage is just god awful. Like, there's never been a time he's caught the ball and had any type of space, maybe twice. Right. But, great return man, make things happen regardless. I was more just excited. I thought he was definitely going to make the team, and like he did. I was like, yes, holy shit. But like since then, he's been Reno Mahe, maybe a little, that on my group text with my boys, I'm like, dude, this guy, because they break my balls about him, obviously, now that he is Reno Mahe. So, but I'll say below because like the coverage is terrible too. Like they almost cost them the game. And then the Vikings game, if the block, if the punter, Lippis or whatever, if he doesn't make that tackle, that's a turning point there. There's been multiple times. They're if they don't clean this up, the special teams is going to cost them a game at some point. So I'm going to go D.
Okay, I'm probably meet in the middle a little bit because I said C minus. I thought about the Sippo situation like you were just talking about, Fred. The only thing is this team. The only reason I'm saying C minus and not anything below is because it has yet at this point to cost them anything in the game or cost the game. So that's the only reason I'm keeping them at a C minus and maybe not into a D plus situation. But yeah, it's right now it has not cost them anything. But if it does, then that grade will begin to drop, and that's something we have to really keep our eye on. So right now, I'm not gonna just say offense in general.
Sure.
I'm gonna break the offense down a little bit. Let's talk about the receiving core. Give me a grade on the receiving core.
Am I lumping Dallas Goddard into receiver?
Yes.
I'm going A as well. It doesn't seem like we've seen many seasons of just uncontrollable drops, and we're not seeing that this season. I mean, each receiver kind of gets showcased each game. Like I feel like last game it was Dallas Goddard's turn a little bit. Game before that, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. Like everybody is showcased a different way in each game. And they've stepped up. They have been the man when their time is called upon. And I mean, you just and each of them have different skill sets. I mean, okay, AJ is the swole Batman or whatever, but like he really can go up and just do anything if that ball's thrown around him. Devontae Smith, the hands on this guy, the route running, the separation he can create is just unbelievable. Dallas Goddard, we're seeing something out of a tight end on the Eagles that we haven't seen in forever in getting yards after catch and yards per catch. I think he's like top 1 and 2 in the league still, and that's not something we have from Zach Ertz. As much as we love Zach Ertz, he is no yak Zach, and that's something that we are seeing the complete opposite of. Quez Watkins, he doesn't get the ball as much as I thought he was going to get it, but I mean, he's making his catches. I love this receiving core. This is probably the most talented receiving core we have seen in possibly our entire lifetime of watching the Eagles.
Yeah, you're right. I would argue with anyone that we have not seen a more talented receiving core if you lump it all together. T.O. is definitely, in my opinion, the best receiver to ever put the Eagles uniform on. But that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, that combo plus Goddard is just not – it's amazing, really. So I'll say A as well. I would go A+. There are some drops that Goddard had and Devontae Smith that, it didn't cost them though, so like it's like hard. It's A, like we haven't seen this forever. I'm nitpicking. I'm just trying to like make the conversation cooler, but it's really there's nothing to nitpick. Like
it's kind of like what I said with the special teams because they haven't cost anything. You can't really drop the grade too far, But yeah, I mean, I think we're A's across the board in this situation. I would say the Dallas Goddard drops. Some of them are key drops. Could have been. Put the game way out of reach at times, kept this game other teams in the game. So I could say A. Running backs, Joe. Give me a grade for running backs.
I'm going to go B, but I think it might be more on the play calling. This could be a Steichen thing that they should be running the ball more, especially when they're up. I mean, they average, 20, 24 points in the first half. More likely than not this season, they've been getting the ball after the first half. So just start running it. Start, pounding the ball. One of my things is I think Miles Sanders looks like a different running back this season. He's being more patient. He's letting the blocking develop in front of him, and then he's hitting the hole. He's doing more north and south running than trying to do a finesse east and west, and he's making the most of his opportunities. You can tell that this is a contract year for him because, like I've said about the receiving corps, these guys they're making the best of their opportunity, and I really like what I've seen out of him. But the rest of the guys, the Boston Scott, he hasn't really done much, in my opinion. Kenny Gainwell shown flashes, but not much as well. Sermon I think he's played like 3 snaps. He's gotten 19 yards on the whole season. So I think the running core they're getting the job done, and I give them a B. But I it's leaning more towards because they're not getting the reps that we saw last season.
I'm going to go B- with Miles Sanders, probably a B+. He's been very impressive in my opinion. The rest of the core, not so much, and they're god awful at pass protection. They are just atrocious at it, like very, very bad. And I think that's a flaw that needs to be fixed because when that linebacker gets through, or there was a nice block actually on Sunday night. I don't know who was in. They clipped. With the not Lamar. Jesus, how am I forgetting the damn number 11 on Dallas? I can't even believe I'm forgetting his name. But anyhow, they adjusted. Parsons.
Yeah.
Who the hell's Lamar? Or if I thinking LeVar Arrington, that's what I'm thinking of. LeVar Arrington. Anyhow,
he is a linebacker out of Penn State.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why. But anyhow,
25 years ago.
So I'll go B- with Miles Sanders carrying them, but the other ones that Gainwell, not much for him. Boston Scott. I'll say this though, as a huge critic of Miles Sanders, I'm at the point now where I'm like, get Boston Scott out of the damn game, get Kenny Gainwell out of the game. Like, why are they getting the ball? Just leave Miles in. That's how much he's improved, in my opinion.
I'll agree with you. The B- is probably a good spot too, because if it wasn't for Miles Sanders playing as well, I would have definitely dropped the grade. The pass protection is definitely one of the most glaring things I've seen with the running back crew. I don't know if I can blame them and give them a bad grade based on what they've seen for 2 reasons. Not having that big back is not helpful at times, and also the line has been kind of up and down with injuries. Landon Dickerson hasn't been able to, 100% be on the field all the time. Now we saw Lane Johnson go down now with a concussion. Thank God it's during the bye week, so hopefully gives him plenty of time to be ready for the next game. But overall, I think B- is good. So Joe, that brings me to the offensive line of your Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going B+ with them, and it's not really their fault because, like you said, I mean, there are some key injuries that we see every week. I mean, what was it last year that there was like the first 14 games, there was 13 different combinations for the offensive line? Well, we're starting to see that again right now. And the fact that this team has such strong depth on the O-line, that's why they're still 6-0, because they have guys that can come in. Like Jack Driscoll came in and he's been playing, he played left and right tackle. I mean, this guy can play all over the place. Opetta's playing. The only one who hasn't missed any time, he's missed a couple snaps, is Jason Kelsey. I mean, it's time. Still arguably one of the best offensive lines in the game when all are healthy. But the depth on this team at that position of the line just blows my mind, because it's just it's almost like, can you see any other team doing that? Still being 6-0 with their offensive line being different every single week so far. And with that said, it's time to draft Lane Johnson's replacement in this year's draft, especially with the Saints, high draft pick. If you can get the number 1 or 2 tackle in the game, you have to do it.
Yeah, I feel like he's just hurt every year. So there's always something with him. He misses.
And when he's out, it's a big difference.
It is. He hasn't given up a sack or so. What's the stat? I mean, someone saved him from the sack. I think Hurts threw one away last week that it would have been a sack.
It would have been a sack. I know exactly what player you're talking about. Yeah.
But anyhow, I'm A+ for this offensive line, and to your point, Joe, the depth has been amazing. When there has been issues, they've adjusted. Like that drive where Driscoll just got ripped. They came out the next drive, had a pulling guard come to Dickerson on a pull, smack him in his mouth. They relegated after getting beat. They had him Parsons now have to drop back as a regular linebacker, which Dallas isn't used to doing. I was so impressed by that because I was really nervous when that drive happened. What do they call it? What is my allowed to say? Stoutland University.
I was going to bring that up. Stoutland U.
I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Even when they're not 6-0 under him, A+ for this line. It's been awesome.
No, and I'm going to go with the A+ as well. And the depth is the reason to go with it. The reason Stoutland can make things like that happen. Because, yes, Jack Driscoll came in that one series, definitely didn't have his sea legs under him, got rocked. They picked on him like no tomorrow. But he was able, they were able to fix it and make changes. And that's the thing is, I think that Stoutland, talking to Sirianni saying, because of this reason, you need to kind of run these kind of plays to take Micah Parsons and these other guys, DeMarcus Lawrence, and them out of the picture, but especially Micah Parsons. So that brings me to the last one, Joe. Jalen Hurts, your quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, 6-0. We're in the bye week. Give me your grade.
A+. A+. I mean, this guy had so many question marks around him coming out into this season. I've never seen a quarterback get treated like this ever. And I mean, there's 32 teams in the league. How many quarterbacks have gone through in our lifetime? And I've never seen a quarterback get treated like, yeah, I am on record saying I'm fully on board with Jalen Hurts before the season. But of course you have a question mark about it. And this guy coming out and just shutting up all the doubters. And do you understand how much of a great position he single-handedly has put this team in? Because now there is no question in my mind about, are they going to draft a quarterback next season? Now they can go out and do whatever the hell they want, what we've been screaming for them to do for years now, draft best player available, and that's what Hallie's been doing, and there's no question mark right now who is under center going forward. The biggest and only question mark is, when do you sign him to the big deal?
And how much? But I'm a B+ with Hurts. I think he came out the first few games and was, tremendous as far as reads and going through progressions. I think the last 2 games, it's been his legs has gotten them through those games, which you need to use. I need to see more. It seemed like that he was a little rattled in the Cowboys game and the Arizona game as well. Not making the throws. Real quick first reads. That's the only reason I'm coming down to B+. But everything Joe said, as it stands now, I think you're a hater if you don't think he's going to be the future of the franchise. He's proven to put the work in. Now, if he fell off a cliff, and even if he fell off a cliff, let's say, I would still say you have to go forward with him because he's shown that he'll put the work in and get better. So, shout out to him. The only reason I'm going B+ is just, and then here, one other credit to him, that not turning the ball over is so huge. So even though he was rattled in those 2 games, he didn't start getting crazy and throwing the ball and making something out of nothing. He accepted the situation and moved forward with it. So, shout out to him. Hurts is amazing.
And one more other thing. Do you know what the other alternative was that everyone was talking about in the offseason was trade for Russell Wilson? And you see how he's been playing this season. Can you imagine if they would have made that big deal for Russell Wilson and not given Jalen Hurts the proper time to develop into the quarterback that we're seeing this season? My God, and this is another thing. Thank God we don't have to go into next offseason saying, okay, who is going to be this year's Russell Wilson for us to say, oh, the Eagles should go out and get?
Yeah, he's in his second year, too. We got to remember that. I know it's his third, but it's really his second. And, dude, how awful is Russell Wilson? It's amazing. I have him in all my fantasy leagues. I did not expect. I expected 20. I'm watching these games, and this reminds me of Donovan when on the Redskins. It's horrendous. I can't believe how much he fell off of. It's stunning because he has receivers.
Yeah.
He has receivers.
And obviously him and the new coach out there are not getting along. I think they're pointing fingers at each other of why they're not doing well. And yeah, Joe, you're absolutely right. I guarantee if they brought Russell Wilson, I would have probably been on board with it. Because of who he was and what his clout is. But if we saw what Denver's dealing with now, and we're stuck with giving up everything we gave up to do so, I'd be pretty upset. So good point there. I'm gonna go with the A for Jalen. The fact that he can keep things going with his legs is a good thing, but at the same time, how long can that last before he starts getting hurt or it wears him down? Right now, 6 weeks into the season, yeah, you can get away with that. But what are your legs like mid-December into January, and then of course further on? He's been playing smart football. Everything. The one thing is, I was worried about with him coming into this. He always knew the right things to say because his father was a coach. He's been coached up his entire life, and I felt like, was he just giving us coach speak, or did he really do it? Was he really going to do it? He did it, and with that being said, is that gives me the ability to want to put him in the A spot, and hopefully we get to see this A, B plus, A plus Jalen Hurts throughout the season. Let's see. Let's go to the board here. I have some interesting.
Let's not.
I want to see what Ian here says. He's missing wide open receivers.
He's hitting wide open receivers though too. And I want to get into the run pass option and what he did to Michael Parsons before Lane Johnson got hurt. He had him on roller skates.
Yes,
that has not been done yet with Michael Parsons. And that's where the legs come in huge. To your point though, Al, can you win a Super Bowl that way? No, it's been proven that you can't forcibly run the quarterback. Like, it just doesn't. You just don't win. You can run though. You can be like Mahomes, but you have to make the throws too. But Ian, I know he's missed them. The only gripe I guess there is a huge concern.
Okay. I guess he means. Well, he said on Russell Wilson.
Okay, Ian. Yeah, he is. He's they're wide open, Ian. Like, I'm so pissed off. Cortland Sutton had like 4 points last week. I'm going nuts with you, Ian.
Matty B saying 5.5 points. That is still a concern.
Problem.
It's still a problem. And let me ask you a question: Is that more Steichen's play calling? Is it we get up to 24 points, and then we play more conservative? Is it them coming out of the locker room up and feeling good about themselves and playing more conservative? Where do you put that blame for the 5.5 points per second half so far on the Eagles?
Go ahead, Joe.
I got a real quick answer. I think it's all of the above. I think it's the coaching. I think it's the players. I think everybody gets in this comfortable headspace, and they're not being as aggressive on the offensive side of the ball, the play calling. I just think that they have to make the needed adjustments, or just say, listen, we're going to go out there and we're going to be killers and score on every goddamn drive we go down. We don't care what the scores run up to. And I mean, hey, that's the way I want it anyway. But yeah, I think it's all of the above. It's the players, it's the coaching, it's everything.
Do you think there's any thought to? I thought originally with why they were scoring so little points in the second half was I was kind of blaming Shane Steichen a little bit, and maybe Nick Sirianni too, because once they got up, they were trying to keep the big plays out of it, trying to kind of make it mistake-free football and keep the ability of having too many turnovers happen. But at this point, 6 weeks into it, I don't know who to blame at this point. And like Joe, maybe you're right. Maybe it's all the above, but it just seems like they and like you would normally do, you would run the ball more, you would ride the clock down a lot. But I'm all about putting their foot on their throat and making the ability, like we saw Dallas almost do. I mean, let's be honest, we were all sweating it a little bit after that second half. That, oh shit, this team might come back. And believe me, if we came back, and even though we'd be like, oh, we're 5-1, we should be happy. But to be up 20 points and to lose to Dallas Cowboys on a Sunday night, being up 20 points, that's multiple kicks in the dinghy.
It's devastating.
I think it's actually trying to do that crazy stuff and like going deep and make the big play and coming out like almost like pressure to score real quick or be explosive, when in reality you're up big, you run the football, which once Dallas caught up, they finally said, what are we doing here? Let's just run the football. And they ran the football down the field and got the W. So I think it's a lot Shane Steichen. I mean, Hurts has missed guys, but I can't necessarily blame him 100% because there's a lot of pressure. The defenses have been throwing blitzes, and then they've had like a bunches formation where, if Steichen spread them out, there's, like Joe said, it probably is all of the above, but I would lean more on the play calling than anything.
All right. I have one particular moment during that Dallas game, and that was when they went for 2. And they were on the 1 yard line because
after the penalty.
After the penalty. So number one, I would have been either good taking the extra point, or if they were going to do that, go with the scrum. Just put everybody on the line and push forward, because let's be honest, that's kind of bread and butter for the Eagles so far this year. I think they've got their first down or the couple of yards that they needed every time, but maybe twice so far this season when they've done that. So on a 4th down. So
here's the thing: they've been doing that a lot on 3rd down just to get the first, which sure. I absolutely love.
Old school smash mouth football. I'm 100% with it. You have a quarterback who's big enough who can push forward. You got an O line that arguably one of the best when all healthy in the NFL. But why do you roll out and throw the ball now when you're on the 1 yard line and you just need to push it in if you're gonna go for it and go for your 2-point conversion?
Vegas made the call. They said, look, Eagles are -6.5. Dallas needs to cover this game. Go for 2, miss it, and they put it in the Dallas kicker's hand, and it didn't work out for him. But Vegas, that's the answer. I love how they run Hurts up the middle. I agree with you guys. I don't like all the called runs. I know they work right now at 6-0, but we have seen this our whole lives with our running quarterbacks. McNabb, Randall, Wentz, they are going to get hurt. It's going to happen if you consistently call running plays for your quarterback. And I don't want that. I just want him to be here for 10 years. I don't want to worry about quarterback. I don't want to worry about it anymore. Ever again.
Listen, the man is built like he has 2 tree trunks for legs.
600-pound squats.
Yeah, he's a big man. But even big man quarterback, look at Ben Roethlisberger. He couldn't keep doing that, rolling out, running around. And now, listen, Ben was a much bigger guy comparatively.
Ben's a pocket passer.
Well, in the beginning, he was a big man. They would have him scramble all over the place. But my point is, you like you said, Fred, you can win games and help keep you in the win column, but winning championships is a different story if you keep running the quarterback. But like I said, overall, we could not have imagined this at this point. 6-0, and to be arguably the best team in the NFC.
Well, I think
I was going to crush you if you said NFL, Al.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I understand that Buffalo and Josh Allen are just a really, really great football team. But the fact that they have a worse record than the Eagles and they continuously get put up in the power ranking as the number 1 team, that's not right. There is an undefeated team in this league, the only undefeated team in this league. And the fact that they're not getting their due respect for being undefeated blows my mind.
That's why the power rankings, Joe. They're not. It's not record. And if you watch the damn Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs, for that matter, and how quickly they score on offense through the air, I don't know that we could stay on the field with them. I would love to see it though, and I would love our defense to hold them and see how it goes. It would be we don't play either of them, so it would have to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I would look at it this way too, Joe. If you had one more win for the Dallas Cowboys or one more win for the New York Giants, are they second or first ranked football team?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Power ranking, no.
Cooper Rush, and no way with Daniel. They just
fitting my
play.
Like at least the narrative. Eagles,
so yes, at least the Eagles have like these explosive. Well, I'll say quarters because we only score in the second quarter. We're going to set like an NFL record for. We literally only score in the second quarter. It is pretty crazy. But in that second quarter, we look like the Buffalo Bills do for 4 quarters.
And that's the other thing where the second quarter scoring is going to come back and haunt us, is that when we play a team of the Kansas City Buffalo Bills caliber, maybe not now, but later in the playoffs.
I think we do.
But
who's on our schedule? They're gonna go. Like something's gonna.
Okay,
I don't know.
let's
bring the schedule back up. Yeah, let me see. Who the hell else do we got here? Like we could lose a game, but like once we get to the playoffs, who the hell am I? Like this schedule, I'm not worried about any of these teams. Really?
Well, are you in the
Dallas
business
with Dak? Maybe if that offense looks like it did last year.
But are you in the business of winning championships? I mean, so you will probably have to face one of these power teams in the Super Bowl, even if you went all the way through, won the playoffs.
Who in the NFC though? Who am I worried about? I need to.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. Right now, this schedule, and I'm looking. I think Green Bay is usually if you're looking at this schedule in the beginning of the year, you're like Green Bay's the hardest game we have on here, probably, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I would have said Vikings, and I picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year, who are 5-1, and we smoked them. I'm not worried about anyone.
As of right now, we should be worried.
Oh, by the way, Al, I didn't forget you laughing at me on the pregame show when I said the fucking Vikings are going to the Super Bowl. Like, that's crazy. They're 5-1, by the way, just to let you know.
This is what happens. This is Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings every year, dude. They start off great.
But it's not like they were going to be 4-12, dude. Like that was your.
But they could still be they could still be 6-11. So we'll find out. Yeah, because my point is
it by being cocky. So
probably, right. But this is the MO of Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. They always have a good beginning, first third of the season. They always start off really well, and then they just suck, and they suck big time. And some of these games they won were borderline close. That Saints game, I was just, we got lucky on that one. We once again we came off on the smelling like roses on a double doink, even though we weren't even in the game. But other than that, I mean, let's just real quick. Before we go, I want to touch on.
Hold on. We have one more grade to give. We got to give this coaching staff a grade.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm giving them an A. Not only because of and listen, Jonathan
I'm giving them an A.
Jonathan Gannon. We were talking last year about firing this guy already after one season, and what we've seen with them, in my eyes, being the top 1, 2, 3 defense in the league, especially with the new guys and getting these guys, NFL ready with the rookies, so to speak. I think Gannon has turned it around. Steichen is he's still doing very well. I mean, he's still calling great plays. They are 6-0 for a reason. Statlin. I mean, he's the greatest, offensive line coach in the history of Everdom. And then Nick Sirianni. I love watching this guy on the sideline. The fire for him. What did we see last week? He's yelling over at the sideline. F you. Game's over. F you. I love him going back for his players. You saw the meme of Fletcher Cox walking back, like giving the eyes, like, wow, I can't believe he's doing that. And then you hear him in the post-game pressers, and this guy is Philly. This guy is Philly tough. He screams. He sweats out this Philadelphia mentality, and it's just so absolutely like 2 weeks ago the Roxbury shirt after that horrific gun violence was going off at a football game there. Like he embodies this whole area, and he just seems like a really great guy. And the fact that he has brought this team as far as he has in the limited time that he's been here, I love this guy so much.
Joe is in love. Joe is in love with Nick Sirianni. Joe's going to run out the studio going, I love Nick Sirianni. And Joe, did anybody hear about what Brandon Graham said on WIP earlier this week? I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Monday. So apparently they had 2 interviews. They had one with Brandon Graham first, and then they had Nick Sirianni afterwards. So I guess it was Tuesday. And Brandon Graham said last year that a couple of Dallas Cowboys came up to him after they walloped us and said, this is the NFC East. You don't belong here.
Yeah.
They told him that he and the Eagles generally, but him in general too, he doesn't belong here. Pretty much, they kind of alluded to be DeMarcus Lawrence, but who would be shocked and surprised if it was. But and then you saw him, like you said, Joe, where he's lipping like "F you," like when they saw that when Kelsey was kind of like grappled down.
Yeah.
I mean, he tried to fight Robert Salia or yelled at him in the preseason game when I mean, what's not to love about Sirianni? Right. He had one fluky press conference in the beginning, which was clearly nerves.
I still don't understand that hate that people gave on him because of that. Like, they wanted him fired because he had a shitty press conference.
I mean, people were just up in arms in anger with the previous season. I don't think any of us really crushed him for that. We said, it kind of was weird, but like
I couldn't imagine coming into that job. Like, that to me at that time, the Eagles head coaching position was probably the most unsexiest position to attain, because look at the Giants right now. Brian Daboll could have been a Philadelphia Eagles coach if at that time, right before that, if it wasn't for how unsexy that position looked at the time when this whole organization looked like it was topsy turvy.
Right. And he wears all the players' shirts. He's just like you said. I'm going to go A with you as well. You just praised the hell out of Sirianni. I want one other note in the middle of last season, giving up the play calling, adjusting to running. This guy adjusts on the fly. He realizes his mistakes and changes. We've been asking, that's all we want from a coach. So shout out to him. I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball, a guy that was, as you said as well, just crushed. And I've never understood the crushing of Jonathan Gannon. He had shit players last year, and he did the best he could with them. And now he has some players, and you're seeing how this defense can work. When a defensive line's getting blown off, that Lions game week 1, the D line was getting blown off the ball, and they're blaming him for the pass rush. That's not him, man. You sign players to penetration. His defense is based on the front 4 or 5 getting pressure, and he'll send someone here and there, and that's the way it is. Like, you might not like the scheme, but he's running a pretty damn good defense. So A for him as well. Yeah, A for the coaching staff. We're 6-0.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm not going to disagree. The one thing what you just said, Fred, with the Sirianni situation, the fact that he could make changes that quickly, I give him some credit, because a lot of consensus was that there's a lot of puppet strings coming above between Howie and even Jeff. That he was just going to be a puppet. He was going to do whatever he wanted, whatever they wanted, and they were going to throw the ball until we had set the record for interceptions in a single season. But no, I agree with you. That's what makes me like him more than anything. The t-shirts are cool. The attitude's cool. The fight in him is cool. But I think ultimately the fact that he can sit there, kind of like we talked about Jalen Hurts, and go, you know what, man, and like I said, that was one of my biggest criticisms with him coming in. He's like, I'm gonna take on the play calling. I'm like, this guy's never called plays before. He's never head coached. He's not been an offensive coordinator, like, per se. And he's going to be calling plays and a head coach. I was like, oh boy, this isn't going to end well. But the fact that he was able to say that, and because that's a hard job. I know I'm still preaching to everybody, but that's a hard job. And the fact that you have to sit there and do and I think that was one of Dougie P's downfalls. That's what caused him, and that was why it was probably a good move for Doug Peterson to move on, because he two things. He had his crew, and he did, and loyalty goes a long way, but to a point where it's costing us games and costing players to want to be here, that's an issue. And then unwillingness to move on and say, listen, okay, maybe I need to step back and manage more than do the play calling. Because in the long run, when we're going down Broad Street in a championship parade, he's still going to be the winning head coach, no matter if it says winning head coach, he calls the plays or not.
He gave it up a little bit, but I'm not going to crush Doug right now. Super Bowl champion coach.
Listen, he forever. Listen, we've talked about this with Carson Wentz. Hate him, love him, whatever it is you went, but he's still a part of something that was big for us, and we can never take that away. You know what I mean?
Now Carson with the commies, like, I know it's a division rival, but a part of me still kind of roots for Carson Wentz because he was such a big part of that magical Super Bowl season. Like, it's hard for me to hate the guy.
Yeah, I don't hate him either. There's no way. I mean, but like with the comment, I still call them the Redskins. But with them, yeah. With the Colts, it was definitely, I had them on like the other TV, like kind of rooting from the pull through, because I want them to do well. You know what I mean? I don't hate them like everyone else. I don't really even get the hate, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And listen, it's just that people felt like he quit the team. And he did. And that's the thing is he did quit the team, but the team kind of quit. Or
So did Randall.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people walked away because you know what? It's for the best for them. And he saw that. Listen, I'm going to be constantly having. I just got
Foles. There was a trade for Foles to come back here. He's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, but that's my thing. Is like he's constantly had a guy looking over his shoulder, and he's like, I just don't want to do that. So I don't blame him for that part of things. But there is definitely huge personality defects with Carson Wentz, and we're not going to get into the Carson Wentz situation, and the fact that he went to two teams with head coaches, two owners who were one of the biggest knuckleheads in the world. But that's a different story for a different time. But I want to just change gears real quick, and I want to talk about now. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to talk Flyers real quick, and I have not watched much of it all this year because the first game, the opportunity I had to watch was on ESPN Plus or something, and I don't have it, and I refuse at that time. And not that it should make a difference, but they're not going to be that good. And I'm like, I'm not going to go spend $10 a month to watch one Flyers game because that's all I'm going to really use it for. So ultimately, what you guys seen so far, I mean, I'm sure we're all surprised. As of they lost tonight. It was final was 4-3 Panthers. They scored right at the end. I think Travis Konecny scored right at the end to make it 4-3. I think Ian threw that in there for us. But ultimately, I mean, I'm sure we're all surprised. But is this just the beginning of the season, or do you think this team could be a little better than we expected?
I'll let Fred go. He's the one wearing the sweatshirt.
It's Wayne Simmons though. So all right, here we go.
Little Wayne train.
But dude, I'm as I've well said, I never played the sport of hockey, so I don't know like the nuances and stuff when you're on there, what I see in football and the other sports. But I know the rules, and I know when a team's not playing hard. And I'll tell you, from the get-go, that first game against the Devils, I'm like, wow, Torts is right. They are going to bang, and they are banging on the boards. I've seen them get into a scrum every single game. I've never watched every game so far like I have. Like I have them on the other TV, even more than the Sixers, believe it or not, the other night, last night. And as the Phillies had the volume, of course. And they're just banging. It's like it's intense. They're not going to lose, and they don't give up. We had 0 comebacks last year, and they came back the first 3 games of the season. We have 3 comebacks, and tonight they were down 2-0. Come back tied at 2. Then they go down 4-2, and you think the game's over. And I think it was 4-2 with a minute 30 left ish.
Oh, he scored, I believe, in the last 30 seconds.
And they're going to fight. And Tortorella sets the tone. I love that they sent Cam Atkinson down. He set the tone right there. Like, hey, you may have a name, you may be the next this, but no. If you and Zach McEwen, he just brought Zach McEwen back up for injury. Ristolainen's out. And he's like, oh, well, if he still got an attitude problem, his ass is going right back down. Mm-hmm. and McEwen had a solid game. I don't expect anything from them. The record really is a benefit of it, and I think it's other teams being like, oh shit, this team isn't going to quit. But I don't know, you know what I mean? I'm kind of scared we're going to like win too many games and not get a top 5 pick.
Well, and here's the thing:
silly thing to do.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing:
really, like if we like not to keep rambling here, but like it'll be like the Sixers not doing the process. Like you don't get the Embiid, like, and we just sit there and we hang around 500, little low, and we never get a star player, and that's not going to win.
Well, here's the thing with Torts. I mean, I know a lot of people were against it, and I don't think I had like a straight opinion if I was against it or not. I wondered if his style of coaching is kind of gone. Like it's not there anymore. I go to the Gabe Kapler situation. Like I'm going to hug him up. Kind of like that's kind of what we're seeing this day and age from a lot of coaches and how they would respond, because we saw with Alain Vigneault that this team did not respond to him. Now, was it because he was too harsh? Is it because he was throwing guys under the bus publicly? Or was it just because they didn't believe in what he was preaching altogether? So I didn't know what to feel from it. But the one thing that he did say, Tortorella said, was that I'm not putting the C on anybody. He goes, that was what sold me a little bit on him, because he's sitting there going, he wasn't being a loudmouth a-hole or being a dick to anybody. He's just saying, listen, somebody's going to earn it. You want the C? I'll give you the C. Freddie Burns, you can have the C, but you got to earn it. Like, Joe, you want the C? You're going to earn it. Or I'll give you all C's. but you got to earn it. And that's what I like.
What do you got to do?
I don't want no participation C, okay?
Yeah.
What do we got to do to get the C again?
You got to earn it.
Oh. I thought you were going to say it 6 more times. That's all.
Maybe 7. But no, but I mean that's the one thing so far I've taken away from him. And let's see if there's long-term or longevity with that versus, just like people get tired of it quickly. We'll find out.
He did that his first year in Tampa as well, which is, and then he ends up winning a cup there. I love him. Did you guys catch the YouTube thing that they did before called The Standard? I was watching that. That was pretty cool. One other guy I have to comment on, Carter Hart. He looks like Carter Hart. Maybe because he has a damn defense in front of him. They're diving down, blocking shots. The first game, they had more hits than they had in any game all last season.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, I was watching at least a good portion of the beginning of the first period yesterday and a little bit into the second because they were the first game to go last night with all 3 TVs going. But and I agree with you. Carter Hart was once again standing on his head. There's a lot of reasons that Tampa Bay game could have been really different last night, especially early on, if it wasn't for Carter Hart making some big saves. But yeah, like you said, they're throwing themselves out there. I am excited now to watch them, believe it or not. Yeah, Matty B. There has been, by the way, for those who are wondering from a programming thing, there will be a Flyers post game called Clear the Ice. The reason we haven't done it is because Matty B also runs the Phillies one, and with the overlap between now and the postseason, we will get to the Flyers one hopefully in the next week or so. Anything else you guys want to add in about the Flyers?
I'll be honest with you. I haven't really paid much attention to them yet. Al, like you were saying, I watched the first half hour of it last night. I saw them score. It's the only goal I've seen them score all season. It was in the third game. It was actually the first game in all 3 games to where it was I had the Sixers on one TV, the Phillies on one TV, and then I had the Flyers on my phone just to keep me updated with the score. So really last night was the first game that I was really paying attention to. So, I mean, just with everything going on, Eagles 6-0, Phillies postseason, the Sixers season opener last night. I mean, it's tough to really dive all into all 4, but trust me, I will get there with the Flyers.
Yes, and the Union do start their playoffs tomorrow. They are the first seed. And listen, if you're a Union fan, you can get the coverage from the Attacking Third here on EOP Sports Network. And like I said, with the game being tomorrow, we're not exactly sure the show's going to go off later that tomorrow night or another day this weekend, just because of how long the game could take. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, like I said, this is a good time to be a Philly fan. There's just a lot of good things going on. And once again, last night, the first game of the season. Now, Freddie, you have done a lot of the post-game shows for the preseason for the Sixers with the guys from the Painted Lines. But ultimately, what do you see from the Sixers, even though with the last night's loss against the Celtics?
Overall or last night? I guess overall or last night.
Yeah, give me a little bit about last night.
Yeah, last night. Let me talk about that because people are like up in arms over like game 1. Like we got to remember the Boston Celtics are the Eastern Conference champions and they're a damn good team. I thought offensively we had some bad turnovers. Embiid still has to work on getting the ball out of the post quickly. I think a lot of times, and he's worked on this. He thinks he's a guard, and I know he has that skill set, but when you get the ball on the block or on the elbow, you need to either dish to the guy in the corner or make a move and go. There's no like time to like dance around with it. And I think Boston kind of figures him out. So that was kind of a lot of the turnovers. James Harden looked like the James Harden of old, which I didn't expect that, but last night and in the preseason, he has. And he's knocking down open threes. He's getting to the lane, making the layups, hitting that floater. I think he had 33, 8, and 7, something like that. I don't know his exact stat line. So very excited for that. Tyrese Maxey has gotten better. The shot has improved through the preseason, and no doubt about that. My concern, the bench depth is different. My concern is the defense. From what I saw last night, I was very, because defense is an attitude and defense is moving your legs. You can have an off night shooting, but defense is your skill. Unless your conditioning's down, that's the only way I could see you getting beat. And DeAnthony Melton, who we brought in here to play some defense and score, just got run all over off the court by Malcolm Brogdon. Like, he just couldn't guard him. And so, like, that was concerning for me. Other than that, Doc's rotations, they're always going to be a question mark. Though last night he stuck with 8 guys. How are they going to fit Paul Reed in and Montrezl Harrell is a question mark for me. I'm just happy that I don't have to see Shake Milton and Korkmaz off the bench first. It was a blessing to see.
Is a little bit of last night them still feeling themselves out in your eyes? Like, do you still like this team kind of, since it's a lot of new moving parts, that they're kind of still finding their identity a little bit?
Oh yeah, there's 82 games. It's got to be. You can't like not like. There are people flipping out about this game.
I think right now we're being very spoiled as a Philly sports fans. We're just expecting everybody to win every night, and it just doesn't work that way.
But the Boston was just random better team, and they got through it. Their bench was depth. Our defense just wasn't there. The attitude wasn't there defensively. It's not a cause for concern. Are they learning each other? Yeah, they're learning a new system now because now Doc is legit, has Maxey as a threat. Like, they got Harden midway 20 games last year, and he's trying to implement this Harden and Embiid pick and roll back and forth type thing. It's going to take some time.
Okay. I mean, listen, they're next up against the Bucks, so this should be interesting. Two tough teams to go up against right away. So see how they bounce back from a loss from the Celtics against another really good team in the East in the Bucks. And like I said, we always said October is just a great time, especially when the Phillies are in the postseason. You have 4 for 4 right now, and the fact that we can sit there and go, we got 3 screens going last night is just. And my wife didn't yell at me. She sees me grabbing the TV from the kitchen and putting it next to the TV in the living room. And I got the big iPad with the Flyers game or with the Sixers game on. It's just a fun time.
It's the best. This is like bringing us back.
Yep. Real quick, I want to thank our great sponsors. Let's start with CherryInjuryLaw.com. That's David Cherry, David R. Cherry to be exact. 610-565-0300. Workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law, you name it, he can take care of you. Dave Cherry is the man, and tell him that Edge of Philly Sports sent you. And don't forget Dolan's Bar, the Most Delco Bar, 24 East Sellers Avenue, right in the heart of Ridley Park. Great food, great times. You never know who's going to be there. Sometimes Hollis Thomas is there. Sometimes Mickey Morandini's there. You never know who's going to be there. But I will always promise you will have a great time at Dolan's Bar. And don't forget PhillySportsTrips.com. All the away games you see there, the dates, they're all amazing, great times. But hey, if you're not going anywhere and you want something a little different, you can go to the Philly Sports Trips tailgates. Follow them on social media. You'll see some of the great videos from the last week, what you might have missed out at the Gatehouse at the Navy Yard. And like I said earlier, I'll get some more information on it. They just posted that they will be doing a bus trip to New York to go watch the Sixers take on the Brooklyn Nets. I think it's in February. So I will get all that information for you guys. And here is the lineup here at Edge of Philly and the Painted Lines. Tomorrow, the Philly Press Box Radio, which is normally on tonight because of the game, has been moved to tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Bird's Eye Q, the Round Mound, Sixers and Bucks post game, possibly the Attacking Third. I will get you guys more information once I know that. Stick around, even though it's a bye week and there's no Eagles pre, post, or halftime. They will be back starting next week and then throughout the rest of the season. And don't forget the rest of the great shows here at the network. Any departing comments you guys want to make?
Phillies in 5.
Nice.
I agree with that still, Joe. I agree with that 100%.
We'll talk off air about that.
Okay.
Go Phils, regardless. I hope it's Phillies in 5.
Yeah. All right, guys. Big thanks to Kevin Stocker for joining us tonight. Like he said on the show, we'll have him back on when we're in the World Series. So buckle up, guys. It's going to be a hell of a ride. We will see you guys next Wednesday, depending on schedules for games and all that. We'll keep you guys up to date. But thank you. Remember to follow us on subscribe on YouTube. Smash that subscribe button. Go to the opsports.com. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll get the newsletter every Friday. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok now, all those great places that you can find your content. I'm Big Al.
I'm Joey Sheeran.
I'm Freddie Burns.
And we out.